Hey, what's up, guys? Raymaster Flex here. It's been a long while since I've been on YouTube and done some videos and things of that nature due to college stuff, college work, and things like that. But I couldn't help but do a video today on Smackdown 1000. I'm about 2 hours late on doing this video. Smackdown ended about 2 hours ago. But I want to touch on a quite interesting episode here. First thing I want to say is I was really hoping that before I even touch on my review on SmackDown 1000, I was really hoping that for once they could have went 3 hours. I mean, SmackDown has been out for as long as I've been born. It's been out for 19 years. I'll be turning 19 in 2 months. It's been out for 19 years, and you would think, and out of all the 19 years that it's been running, as long as I've known SmackDown, it has never went 3 hours. And I've always questioned why. I mean, you've had Raw do that plenty of times before they actually officially became a 3 hour show. They would always have special events where they went 3 hours. But SmackDown Live has never done it. And I just really question why, SmackDown has never been 3 hours. You would think in an occasion like this, a monumental occasion that took them 19 years to get the 1,000 episodes, that they would finally do 3 hours. But that did not happen here. They still stuck with 2 hours. And in a way, I kind of felt like because of that, certain incitements and certain things were rushed. But at the end of the day, I believe that the show was pretty decent, in my opinion. I can understand though why some people may have mixed reactions. So, to kick it off, you had the R-Truth and Carmella come out. First of all, let me just say that I really like this comparison between R-Truth and Carmella. I've noticed that ever since Carmella turned babyface, she talks a little less on the mic and she's a less annoying. I mean, you always know that if a heel is annoying on the mic, then they're doing their job because they're supposed to generate heat. And if there's a heel that's getting like monster babyface cheers, you know, depending on the heel, that's not how it's supposed to be for all heels. But anyway, I really like the comparison. They came out, had Truth TV that had actually got canceled when R Truth had lost to the Miz to fight for the show a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown Live, and they talk for a while about who their special guest is. They do two dance breaks. The fans are cheering for dance breaks, which I think our truth is really funny. Really entertaining. Then you have Stephanie come out as the guest. Doing her uh, way of getting into the fans' minds and saying stuff to the fans. Then you have Shane McMahon come out to say how he thanks the fans and things like that for the 1,000 episodes and blah blah blah. It was kind of a little surprising to see Shane only because Shane, from last time I remember, last time he was seen was in Saudi Arabia back at the Greatest Royal Rumble was the last time he was actually like seen as far as an event or anything. He hadn't been really seen since. Um, and which was crazy because he got kind of like choke slammed by Braun Strowman through a table, which was how he got eliminated in that match. Um, and he hadn't really been seen since, so it had just been Paige that had been seen. So that was a pretty interesting sight. But then you had Vince come out, and let me just say this: no matter what people say about Vince, it amazes me how so many people can sit here. And this is in Washington D.C. So many people can sit here and say how they don't like the way Vince does things now. Vince needs to retire. Vince is too old. But every time Vince come out and his theme song plays, the whole crowd knows the words to the song, and they actually chant and stuff in the comments about people wanting Vince to leave, people wanting Vince to step down, people saying Vince has lost his touch. But every time he comes out, no matter when it is, whenever his theme plays, the whole entire crowd is literally singing his theme. talk about Vince needing to leave and stuff, and then every time he comes out, no matter when, he always gets that huge vibe for his team because he's had that same theme song since like 1999, really since about the time SmackDown's been out, and it's just amazes me how the fans still invest to the song, still chant the song when he comes out. And then they have this little weird gimmick, this little weird ending where, uh, Vince is like, I know all this bickering needs to stop, because you got Stephanie and Shane bickering a bit about SmackDown Raw, trying to have something epic happen, and all of a sudden Vince is like, you got to stop this bickering, and Vince says we need to do something to entertain these people, and then they do another dance break, and then the segment ends. I mean, again, I can see where the mixed reactions might come with the show, but at the same time, I mean, you can't expect for things like this to always have the the people return that you would want. So, I may not go in order with this because I don't know. Like I watched the whole thing, but when it comes to just going straight down, I don't know. But then next up you had after that segment, which is a pretty funny segment, once Vince, Shane, and Stephanie, R-Truth, and Carmella all started to do a little dance break to end that segment off. Then you had AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan versus the Usos. I think this is a pretty good match, pretty good tag team match here. Um, it was interesting, and it was funny because when the match ended, the way it ended, Daniel inadvertently hit AJ, which helped the Usos super kick AJ and then super kick Daniel Bryan to win the match. And all you saw was AJ staring back at Daniel Bryan like he did intentional, and Daniel Bryan staring back at AJ. And then it seemed like I would have liked for them to go a little bit further with this. I mean, I really I really don't think babyface versus babyface feuds work all the time. I really don't think that's a good decision because you know because we've seen how that's played out in the past. A lot of times, like babyface versus babyface feuds, they just don't sell out too well. And I think that either turning AJ Hill or turning Daniel Bryan Hill would be the better way to go here. I mean, one of the reasons why Shinsuke had turned heel when he was facing AJ was because before he turned heel, like the story wasn't really getting anywhere, and they needed to turn him heel to extend the storyline and make it a little deeper. But it's like with them both being baby faces, it kind of makes it hard to be invested on cheering for one particular person, being out there for one particular person. Either way, you still have mixed reactions, but it would have been nice to see one of them turn against one another, whether it was Daniel Bryan or AJ. I know that Daniel Bryan gets such loud reactions now that they're afraid to do it, but one of the reasons why Daniel Bryan gets so much loud reactions even prior to his original retirement was because of the work that he put into the ring and because of the fact that he was a heel for a brief moment in 2012. As a matter of fact, for most of the first half of 2012, he was a heel, and he didn't actually, I would say, officially turn babyface until once him and Kane started the Team Hell No thing. And you can kind of say that at that point he was like a babyface. But prior to that, from the beginning of 2012 when he was the world heavyweight champion, all the way to about July, August, he was a heel. So it's not like he doesn't have the experience to be a heel. And AJ certainly has the experience because he was just a heel earlier last year. Um, he was a heel from May of 2016 all the way up until WrestleMania of last year. So he definitely has experience of being a heel. Um, and he's had some of his better matches as a heel. But anyway, I just think it would have been interesting if they could have climbed up with it. But I've noticed that's one of the reasons I wish that it was 3 hours instead of two, because it seemed like I enjoyed the show all the way, but it just seemed like they rushed through certain segments like really fast because they wanted to get through everything, so they just like started rushing through segments. Um, and that's the thing I don't. That's the thing I don't like about SmackDown Live sometimes is that there are some shows they can have more than one segment and it can run smoothly. But then there are some shows that some episodes that because it's 2 hours they kind of rush through it like really quick because the tag team match got good quality time, but when it came to Rusev and the Miz, that match it ended so fast I didn't even know what happened. Like they rushed through that match super fast, uh, which was sad. But before I get to that, then you had the Evolution come out. Now this was interesting. It seemed as if when they were ending the segment, Batista was kind of teasing the reason as to why he was wanted to come back to WWE in the first place. Because I've seen in many interviews that Batista was saying that he would want to have a feud with Triple H, which would be like his final feud, and he would retire in that aspect. And it was nice to see them all come out and share some word. Uh, with them being champions, Triple H a 14-time World Heavyweight Champion, Randy Orton a 13-time World Heavyweight Champion, of course Ric Flair 16-time. Um, putting that out there, putting the ethnicity out there. Now, one thing I can say is that funny thing about Evolution, they came to SmackDown Live, but one thing I found funny is they did not originate from SmackDown Live. I mean, I was thinking about the whole time they were talking, I was just like, Evolution, their whole history was all on Raw. Like everything they did was on Raw. Individually, they've had success on SmackDown Live, and probably the most two that's had the most success on SmackDown Live uh, will probably be Batista and Randy Orton. I mean, Triple H had a lot of success on SmackDown Live as well, but Triple H and Randy Orton, most of well, I'm not even gonna say that because when Randy Orton became the youngest world heavyweight champion, that was on Raw, that wasn't on SmackDown Live. But anyway, they they didn't originate from SmackDown. All the members of Evolution was all on Raw. Like the team formed on Raw, they broke up on Raw, all that stuff happened on Raw. So, it was just interesting to see them talking on SmackDown Live as if they actually was ever on SmackDown Live. The whole time they were a unit, they were always on Raw, like always on Raw. They had this thing where they had drafted Triple H to SmackDown, but then they drafted him right back to Raw like later on in the same night, 2004, which was crazy. Um, so they've always been on Raw. So, that was an interesting segment. The funniest thing that I can word out was when Batista was saying how, Triple H has beaten everybody in the business except for me. And when he said that, I had goosebumps for a second because I'm thinking, wow, so is Batista, is he gonna come out, or is he gonna actually come back? Because we know Batista has a history of quitting. Is he gonna actually come back and start a feud with Triple H? Now, I think the reason why they made it as they made it as a joke and everything was for two reasons. Because for one, this was a one-off segment, something that wasn't meant to build any further than SmackDown 1000. And for two, since Triple H is already going to team up with Shawn Michaels, who's coming out of retirement, to face Brothers of Destruction at Crown Jewel, I don't think they wanted to overshadow that by having Batista tease like a match against Triple H in the near future. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know about some of you guys, but I'll be more interested in seeing Batista versus Triple H once again than seeing DX versus the Brothers of Destruction. Not because I don't like the Brothers of Destruction, or not because I don't like DX, but just because I just personally think that at this stages of their careers, like there's just really no reason of why a match like this would need to take place. And who knows, Shawn Michaels could surprise everybody and come out strong, but I don't know. But I'm not going to really speak too much on that. Bottom line though is that um, Evolution came out. They came out. They spoke for a bit. Pretty interesting promos they all cut. Randy Orton seemed as if he was just throwing a tan on all of them by calling them all out and saying, while y'all been doing this, I've been busting my ass to win, night in and night out, to be a legend and stuff like that, while y'all been sitting in the couch and doing whatever y'all been doing. Randy Orton was just going all on them. But Randy Orton is a heel now, so you can expect that from Randy Orton. It's kind of funny because it just shows you that how fans are. Orton is always going to get cheers no matter what at this point in his career. Like, it doesn't matter what they do with him, he's always going to get cheers. But it was interesting. It was really interesting to see them come back. I was pretty glad that to see them unite for once. It makes me wonder if Batista's ever going to show up again. Maybe this is probably just a one-off thing. I was surprised that they even paid him enough to come back again, honestly, because I mean he was really preventing from coming back, but because he said that this is something he thinks about wrestling every day, that can explain why he came back. But like I said, he cut a promo was saying at the end of it when he said he's beaten everybody in his business except for me, it had me thinking, wow, is this like a foreshadow of Batista against Triple H again and maybe another WrestleMania? Um, and maybe this time Triple H goes over. I mean, what is the thing with that? I mean, I think that'd be interesting because he said that in many interviews, all he wants to do at this point is just feud with Triple H, and this would kind of be like his retirement. So that was interesting, especially in his hometown, DC. I think this was the best way for Batista to make a return by being in his hometown because he get more fan support. Had this been in another location, he probably would have got as much of a big reaction. Maybe, maybe not. But he was so right when he said, no matter if you guys called me Boo Tista or Blue Tista, I entertained all of you. I mean, because the fans were really cruel to Batista during his first return that he made in 2014. I mean, that was just terrible. I mean, the whole reasoning was because of Daniel Bryan, but they just shit it all over Batista. I mean, it was just sad. The man had been gone since 2010. He comes back and he gets treated like that. I mean, I'm not even gonna go over the whole thing, but man, it was nice to see him at his hometown. Wish I was there. Uh, got a huge pop. He got the loudest pop out of all four of them by being his hometown, so that was real nice. Um, and then I believe the next segment, excuse me, guys, next segment, next match actually, I think that was when Rusev went against the Miz. It was really rushed. I don't know why that match got rushed so quickly. Like it just ended like so fast, and it ended so quick. I didn't even know what happened. It was like as soon as the bell rung, like Aiden English comes out not long after distracts Rusev so that the Miz can win. And then the Miz ran out, and then Rusev attacked Aiden English. And what I didn't like about this segment was he attacked him, and then they immediately took the camera off the rest of what he was doing. Like, that's the part that I didn't like. Because it was like, they showed him attack him, but then they pulled the segment off and didn't finish it, and that was just weird. I don't know why they did that. That was kind of just. That's what I said. I don't know what it was, but they just seemed like they were rushing through some of these segments. Like some of them were a good amount of time, but then some of them, like matches and stuff, it just felt rushed. And I really, I really don't like when they have to rush through something because that match ended so quick. I couldn't even really tell what happened. I mean, I seen what happened in my visual eyes, but it went so quick. It was just crazy. And I think after this, um, this is when you had Edge come out and cut the promo. Everybody said the same thing about how they think the fans should have been 1,000. SmackDown, all that. To have Becky come out to talk to her to try to get her to basically, be friends, remain friends with, to be friends again with Charlotte, and that her decision wasn't going to help her. Being on the top by yourself is a lonely road. Have someone with you. If you just turn your back on everybody, you'll look down on it and feel bad. And Becky, as classy as she is, made it seem as if she was agreeing with Edge because first thing he said was, I see that you and I have a lot in common, you know. But then Becky was like, yeah, she envied him and stuff like that. And then once he got to saying all that, then Becky was like, yeah, you're right, I do have a problem. But I love myself. And then, guys, I'm not really good with telling all these phrases like that. Uh, but then the one thing I can say is that the part that was cold to me, and this was really cold when she told him about his neck, like make sure you don't crack your neck when you go through those ropes. That was cold. Like that's a classic heel type of statement right there. Because, you know, as we know, one of the reason why Edge retired was because of his neck. So when she said that to Edge, that was just a classic heel type of move. It's like, make sure you don't crack your neck, break your neck again when you walk through those ropes. Uh, that was cool right there. And then that's when Charlotte came out and said her two piece and started attacking her and they pulled her back. That was cool right there. I think this feud between Becky and Charlotte has really gotten to another level. Becky is trying her hardest to get heel heat. The fans just won't buy into it because they see Charlotte's deal and hers a babyface. But I think she is doing a good job in terms of the way she's presenting herself as a heel and certain things that she's saying. Because when she said that about Edge's neck, even a crowd got kind of cold about that. Like that was cool. I'm not even lie. When she said that was cool. Um, and so you had that happen. The Edge come out. I was actually surprised when I seen Edge though because he grew his hair back. Last time I seen Edge, he still had short hair after he cut it, and it grew back like normal, which I would expect it to, but I didn't think he was gonna grow it back because some of them once they cut their hair, it kind of just stays like that. They don't want to grow it back, but it actually grew back. So it was nice to see Edge, the ultimate opportunist, come back. And throughout the show, they showed a bunch of pictures of past events that happened on SmackDown. So that was pretty cool. One of the ones that stuck out to me was the one they showed with 9/11 when they came out. The whole SmackDown roster, well, the whole roster that came out to dedicate for that tragic event. That was pretty cool to see that. They had a lot of different things. Excuse me, that's pretty late. They had a lot of pretty different things that They did. So that was pretty interesting there. Uh, then this is probably the more interesting of the whole night when you got the New Day versus Sheamus and Cesaro for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Now, something was telling me that by this being a 1,000 episode of SmackDown, something was telling me that the New Day was going to drop the belts. I just wouldn't have seen them retaining the belts, but I just kind of wish that they would have dropped it clean. But I mean, they kind of did if you take in the fact that the Big Show didn't actually get in the match. He just chokeslammed Kofi through a table. But it was funny because the match was good. Uh, the only thing that got me that I got kind of scared was when I seen Big E go for that Uranagi on Cesaro, and he botched it, and it almost looked like Cesaro would have broken his neck from the way that he landed on the mat. Like that was just vicious when he went for that. That piece of the match was like death taking because it almost. I'm gonna just say this: Cesaro is a badass because he's had so many things happen to him in matches. I mean, this man literally had his teeth go like I can't remember how many inches, but it went like several inches up his mouth last year at No Mercy when he teamed with Sheamus against I guess Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, and he had to get stitches immediately after the match because of his teeth. It went that much into his mouth, and all you could see was just blood coming out, and he still kept going in the match. And in this match, you know, it looked dangerous because when Big E went for that Uranagi and it looked like he botched it, and the way that Cesaro landed, it almost seemed like he could have broken his neck. And then even when Big E went for his move outside the ring onto Sheamus, it almost looked like he botched that because the way that his head hit the mat after he went for that move. So both of those moves were kind of botched, but this goes back to the whole rush thing. I think to a certain degree they were kind of rushing this thing, but the match was really good. Most of every time that Sheamus Cesaro and the New Day have faced each other, they've had good quality matches. Um, I don't think there's really been a match they've had that has actually ever disappoint. Like every match they've had against each other, from what I've seen, have been really good quality matches. This was no different here. And then you had you had you had Sheamus and Cesaro about to go for the win, uh, but then Kofi Kingston pushes Sheamus's legs off the ropes so he wouldn't win the titles that way. And then they attack Kofi Kingston, throw the pancakes down. And they had funny thing was they had Jared King Law and Booger T. They had them two on at ringside, but the way they had it wasn't even like they were really saying that much. I mean, from when it would like switch back to them, it didn't even seem like they were really saying that much in the match. Um, but it was crazy though, because like I said, it was a good match. All the way through. Both teams are a hell of a talent, and I just knew something weird was going to happen. And the Big Show comes out, turns heel for the 1,000th time. And you might as well say even more than that because he was a heel last year. No, not last year. He was a heel during the Raw 1,000th episode. He didn't turn heel. He just was a heel. And now SmackDown 1,000, he turns heel. Like, I mean, this man has got to get paid so much money to keep constantly turning heel and babyface. I mean, the Big Show has probably had the most heel and babyface turns out of any other superstar in the history of WWE. I think if there was a Hall of Fame induction for this man, for heel and babyface turns, or even just like a freaking slammy for that, if they actually broke kayfabe and said, okay, let's do a slam for the most hated and beloved superstar, because they wouldn't call it heel and babyface because they wouldn't want it to be open like that. So they'd go, okay, so let's call it the award for the most beloved and hated superstar that can have the most beloved and hate, and probably go to straight to uh, they'll probably go straight to the Big Show because this man's had so many babyface and heel turns. It's ridiculous. Like as soon as he came out, I just kind of knew it would have been too obvious for him to protect the New Day. So once he choke slammed Kobe Kingston through the table, and Biggie got mad and got bro kicked, I just kind of knew that they were going to drop the belts by that point because it was like it's too obvious. And now Sheamus and Cesaro have won the SmackDown Tag Team titles, which now makes them 5-time Tag Team champions. Which I found funny because they said they joined the 5 times club, which is what Tom Phillips said after the match was over. And it was funny because Sheamus Cesaro is a hell of a talent, and it's a shame that he hasn't had any of the success in a singles push. But ever since he's been put with Sheamus, I mean, these guys have been winning tag titles like hotcakes. I mean, my goodness, it took them this long to win the SmackDown tag team titles ever since they got guess you could say traded because of the Superstar Shakeup to SmackDown Live during the Superstar Shakeup earlier this year. Ever since that happened, they hadn't won any titles on SmackDown up until now. And so at this point, these guys have been a tag team for 2 years, and they've already won the tag titles 5 times. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it kind of makes me wonder if they break them up, like what's going to happen to their careers? Is it going to affect both of their careers, Sheamus and Cesaro? People say that if the New Day break up, they're going to all become jobbers. Well, the question is, if Sheamus and Cesaro breaks up, what's going to happen to their careers? Because it seems like they have grown so well as a unit, and they've won this many tag team titles now as a unit that you start to question if they break up, then what would happen? Because would Sheamus get lost in the shuffle? Would Cesaro get lost in the shuffle? And Sheamus has a lot more success than Cesaro. He's already been a world's heavyweight champion. You know, so he's had more success than Cesaro has. He's already been world's heavyweight champion. He's already been United States champion. Cesaro's been United States champion, but that's the only title he's won individually. But for Sheamus, he's been a King of the Ring winner of 2015. He's a Royal Rumble winner of 2012. He He's a former WWE champion, actually beat John Cena to win that title. He's a two-time WWE champion, former World Heavyweight champion, former WWE World Heavyweight champion, former Money in the Bank winner. So he has had a lot more success than Sheamus in the individual state. But Sheamus, excuse me, he's had a lot more success than Cesaro in the individual state. But Cesaro has literally only won the U.S. title individually, and that's it. He has had no other titles won individually. But yeah, man. Like I said, that was crazy. The Big Show turned heel again. I guess you can say it wouldn't have been a SmackDown 1000 without the Big Show turning heel. And then what else happened? I think that's when they had the segment where Cena cut the short promo on SmackDown 1000 and thanking the fans and stuff like that, and talked about how he went from a kid who slapped Kurt Angle during the ruthless aggression, showed that he had ruthless aggression, to a doctor thugonomics with his rapping gimmick, to actually having an album, which I think was actually one of the best albums that he had came up with, that he did with his cousin Trademark in 2005. I really like a lot of the songs on that album, even if you don't like John Cena. And then, went from what he is today. And then that's when they went to the main event. And I found it kind of weird because they kept saying how Undertaker was gonna come out, but he came out literally just to say, "At Crown Jewel, I've got three words for DX: rest in peace." And then he walks off, and that's the end of SmackDown. It's reasons like that that I wish it was 3 hours because he came out just to say that those very little lines just to leave. I mean, and before that, you like you said, the main event, you had Rey Mysterio versus Sheamus. I mean, Rey Mysterio versus Shinsuke for United States Championship. Rey Mysterio versus Shinsuke with Rey Mysterio's return to SmackDown Live. This was to determine who would be the final person to go to the World's Cup. Rey Mysterio won the Rey Mysterio Rey Mysterio won the match in which I kind of expected him to. It was a good match while it lasted. Rey Mysterio definitely is still in good shape. It's amazing because Rey Mysterio at this point is at least 41, 42 years old. Not that much younger than R-Truth. He's at least 41 or 42. And the man still wrestles in great shape. Like, he hasn't lost a beat. And when he first came back at the Royal Rumble in the World's Fargo Center earlier this year, that's what the fans were cheering. You still got it. Now they were cheering the same exact thing when he went against Shinsuke in this match. That you still got it. It was a good match. Um, and then he beat Shinsuke to make himself as the final member of the World Cup for the best in the world to determine who the best in the world is at Crown Jewel, which is how the Miz got in by beating Rusev. Now, now this is kind of a side thing. What I don't really like about that though is the fact, excuse me, is the fact that um most of the people that's in the World Cup are mostly the older superstars, and it kind of kills like that vibe of having the younger guys square off against the older ones in like dream matches. Cause like imagine if they had Samoa Joe in there, imagine because he had a match against Jeff Hardy last week on SmackDown Live, and because of his knee, which I don't know if he's actually injured or if he was selling the injury from Hell in a Cell. I don't know. Well, not Hell in a Cell. From what was that last? I can't think right now. I don't know what he was doing. Um, I don't know what happened, but oh god, I don't know what happened. Super Showdown. Let me get that right. Oh, sorry. Super Showdown. I don't know what happened in that match. I don't know if he was selling or if it was real, but they had him they had it seem as if he was really hurt during the Jeff Hardy match. I hope it's not a real injury though, because it's just getting ridiculous how much Samoa Joe keeps getting injured. And I think that might be one of the reasons why they're being hesitant about giving him a title, because it just seems like he can't stay healthy enough to prevent getting injured. I mean, it's just getting crazy. That's one of the reasons. Well, I'm not gonna say that's not. I'm not gonna say that's why he didn't wrestle in both WrestleManias, because he could have done something last year at WrestleMania, but they kept him off the card completely. Didn't even have him interfere in the match with Seth Rollins and Triple H. But this year WrestleMania, he was actually injured. Last year's WrestleMania, he wasn't. But anyway, Jeff won because of that, because Joe couldn't continue the match, and they just awarded Jeff the match. The only thing I don't really like is the fact that a lot of people in the match are like people past their prime, and it's like kind of takes away from the younger guys. Like the only young guy that actually made it to the World Cup is just Seth Rollins. I mean, I guess you can say Dolph Ziggler, even though Dolph Ziggler's been in the company for over 12 years, but he's still in like his mid 30s at this point. So I guess you can still say that's a little younger than how old some of these other guys are. And then the Miz is like in his mid 30s, but they're like the only ones. But everybody else in the Crown Jewel are like a lot older, and it's just kind of crazy how they did that. John Cena didn't even have to wrestle a match; they just put him in there. So that's pretty interesting. Rey Mysterio got the last spot. It'd be interesting to see who they would select, who they would have as the best in the world. Now, one dream match I would want to see out of that is for Seth to face Rey Mysterio in a singles match, which I don't think has ever happened, or for Seth to even go against Jeff Hardy in the singles match. And I think that would be interesting. Uh, but, that pretty much concludes SmackDown 1000. I really wasn't intending for this video to be that long. Hopefully you guys view it because this is the first time doing WWE video in a very long time. First time I've even been on YouTube in a long time. Excuse me for my stuttered or voice mess ups. I just don't know what it is. It's very hard to speak a lot of times. Um, but I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I think SmackDown, in my opinion, SmackDown 1000 was a pretty decent show. If they hadn't rushed some things, it would have been even better. Uh, I wish that it would have went 3 hours at least just for once, because then maybe they would have had to rush through so many things. Also, they had Teddy Long and Vicky Guerrero and John Laurinaitis in the backstage with Paige. They showed that for a short, brief moment. Like I said, I just wish that they hadn't rushed through so many segments and sped it like that. And like that's always something that kills a show when you rush through stuff. I just wish they hadn't rushed through the segments. But at the end of the day, I think the show was good. If you compare it to Raw 1000, you would say that Raw 1000 was probably better to some degree. Just because of the fact that it was 3 hours and they had that extra hour to add the spice into everything it showed. In this case, it just seemed like it was just written kind of last minute and they didn't really have a lot of like or Hall of Famers other than Edge and The Undertaker. So, it is what it is. No matter how SmackDown or Raw ends, I'm always going to appreciate it. It's always going to be my love no matter what. Unlike most people who just bitch about the show and say how bad it is, I didn't think it was bad. Um, if anything, I just think that they just shouldn't have rushed through the segment so quickly. If they had done it 3 hours, maybe they wouldn't have had to do that, rush through the segment so fast. So, it is what it is. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. And I'll talk to you guys another day. Signing off, Raymaster Flex. Peace out.